What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with John, talking Steelers football. I'm your host, John, and we are excited about today's episode because we are getting ready for Steelers football. Yes, y'all, football is back. Football is back, and the Steelers are getting ready to host the Green Bay Packers on tomorrow night for the first preseason game. And again, it's Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers going up against their former teams that they started out with. However, their remarks this past week is that it's not a big thing. It's just a preseason game, but it should be fun because for the first time in 19 years, we get to see what a Pittsburgh Steelers team looks like under a new head coach. And for that, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. So I want to get right into talking some Steelers football on this week. I had a chance last week to go to Steelers camp and do some observations on my own, see some things on my own. And I had a chance to see some of the players that I was really interested in seeing how they were looking, what they were doing. I was tired of reading what all the pundits were saying, what the media is saying. I wanted to see it for myself. I wanted to see it with my own two eyes, what was going on. And so I'm gonna get right into it. So let's start with the quarterback situation, my opinion on that. Just want to keep it raw and real with you. Aaron Rodgers didn't look good. And it was the Saturday Night Lights practice. It was competition. They was in pads. They did 7-on-7, shots. They did 11-on-11. Rodgers didn't look too well. The offense didn't look well, period. Definitely don't look like they ready, to compete. And definitely don't meet the expectation that we all had based on the fact that the Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, who is an offensive coordinator at heart, to be their head coach. However, I will say this, that I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old, man. And even if he doesn't have a good year, his experience and his ability to help some of these young guys is what matters the most. Again, I reiterate that the Steelers didn't have a offensive culture under this last regime. He was a defensive-minded coach. Mike Tomlin was a defensive-minded coach. So he didn't put much into having an offensive culture, especially after he allowed Todd Haley to go in the mid-2010s. Todd Haley, he orchestrated, what arguably was the best offense in Steelers history with Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, at one time Mike Wallace, and then after that Martavis Bryant. That offense statistically was the best the Steelers have ever had in history. But after he was gone, after they let Todd Haley go because of whatever friction he had with Ben Roethlisberger, didn't like him or whatever, and he cried like a baby to get rid of him. But the offensive culture was never developed. They let Randy Fitchner become the new offense coordinator because he was the quarterback's coach, because he pretty much would just do whatever the heck Ben say do, and the offense stunk under him. They let Fitchner go, and he hired Matt Canada, and the offense stunk under him. And then they hired Arthur Smith, and he came in, he did some okay things, but the one thing that was missing with all of those coaches was there was not an offensive culture. You had guys who were here, who were leaving here, and were saying things like, I was drafted here, but I did not understand how to play offense or know what offense was until I left and went somewhere else. Juju Smith-Schuster, who was good here, he was really, really good here, especially under that 1 year that he had under Todd Haley. He was the Steelers MVP that 1 year, had 1,000 yards receiving. And when he left here, he went to Kansas City and sat under Andy Reid, an offensive coach genius. And he's like, this is where I learned how to play offense. I didn't understand offense. I was just out here running routes. I was just out here, basically they had no structure. And you can expect that from a defensive coach. He's not invested in that. He wasn't invested in that and developing that. And as a result of that, they lost a lot of offensive talent, especially offensive talent that they drafted. That was the sad part. They drafted offensive talent, but they did not have the coaching to prepare those guys and help those guys become an offensive force that would have matched what they were trying to do on defense. I mean, you drafted a quarterback, Kenny Pickett, and say what you want about him. He was gifted. He had skills. I mean, the dude won. He literally won. But his problem was that he didn't have nobody developing. He never had nobody who invested in him to develop him. And so, if you had given him 2 years to sit in an offensive culture like a McCarthy culture, or some other offensive minded coach who's good at working with quarterbacks, if he had a chance to sit under that for a year or two, by the time, by the time he had a chance to play, he would have been good. He could have been good, especially when he had the offensive talent around him. They had an offensive line that they drafted. They had skill positions that they drafted. They drafted their running back, Najee Harris. They drafted their wide receivers, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. And, you had, those are two bona fide stellar wide receivers, and say what you want about them being divas. All receivers are divas. But you know why they were angry? Because they realized that the offense was not taking advantage of their skill set. And that's totally understandable that they would be mad about that. Totally. So, they had Moof, I think the other Chase Claypool, they drafted him. You've had three wide receivers who had the potential to give you an explosive offense. Pickens, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. All three guys complement each other in ways that that you would imagine being able to build your offense around. And it's just unfortunate that it didn't work out because they just didn't have the culture to do it. So I get back to my point. Aaron Rodgers being here has helped this team and these players that are on offense be engrafted into or assimilated into a offensive culture where they learn how to play offense. I love that for Will Howard, and I love that for Drew Aller, that they get a chance for at least 1 year, with Will Howard 2, but Drew Aller 1 year, sit behind somebody as great as Aaron Rodgers and learn. He may not play well. I hope he do, because I think he still has the arm talent to do so. But hopefully they learn from him and they can, glean some things from him that'll help them in their careers. So having said that, as I mentioned Will Howard and Drew Aller, my takeaways from the camp, Saturday Night Lights, and then the other camp I went to, Will Howard to me didn't look too good. I mean, he just, I think he has some gifts and skills. But when it came to like reading defenses, and making plays, like he wasn't doing it. I mean, there was just practice. I just didn't see it. Drew Aller, on the other hand, he looked pretty good in the 7-on-7 shots. He didn't look too good in the 11-on-11. He had a couple of nice deep balls. He threw a nice long deep ball. I think it was like 50, 60 yards to DK Metcalf, hitting right in the numbers down the sideline. He threw another one to Brandon Smith, number 87, threw another deep ball to him. That was pretty ball. So he did some things that was pretty good. And with Mason, he looked solid. I mean, to me, Mason's Mason. He's to me, he's entrenched as a number 2 quarterback. I can care less what people think about him. I think Mason Rudolph is gifted and talented, and I feel comfortable that if anything was to happen to Aaron this year, anything was to happen to him, I feel comfortable that the Steelers could still play competitively with Mason Rudolph as the quarterback. So quarterbacks, was pretty cool. Another observation I noticed is that although the depth chart that I showed y'all last week says that Jaylen Warren is running back 1 and Rico Dowdle is running back 2, it didn't look that way in practice. And from what I'm hearing, it has not looked that way. Rico Dowdle started practice as running back 1 and Jaylen Warren came in as running back 2. I don't like that. He's a new guy, maybe, and he does make more money, but so what? Jaylen Warren has been here. He's the established running back here. He's who Pittsburgh has fallen in love with because he runs like a Pittsburgh Steelers running back in the Jerome Bettis mode, in the Le'Veon Bell mode, in the James Conner mode, runs guys over, especially being as small as he is. He's only 5'8", 5'9", or something like that. That guy's fast. He runs guys over. He can catch the ball. He can block. He's a great pass protector. And he finally got his shot last year, and he almost had 1,000 yards. I think he was like 30, 40 yards away from that. You would think that they would build on that, but, Rico Dowdle is McCarthy's guy. That's who he drafted in Dallas. They brought him in here, and he's been running with the ones. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's because he's starting the game doesn't mean that he's going to play the whole game. McCarthy's philosophy is smart, which is, he says, as a playmaker, he doesn't want to be worried about the personnel. He says, I just want to call plays knowing that whoever's in the game, I'm going to be able to call whatever play I want to call, because everybody can run and do whatever play I call. And I think that's smart. And Dowdle and Warren can do that. They both can play all three downs. That's another reason why the wide receivers are learning all the positions, the X to Y to Z, so that no matter where they are, no matter what position they have to play, he can call any play and they'll be able to run any play from anywhere. So I like that. That's smart. Only thing with the offense that I'm hearing, and that came right out of McCarthy's mouth is that he's not too satisfied with the execution of where they are right now. So they got some stuff to do. They need to work on that. And hopefully, we'll get a good look of what they do tomorrow. Has not come out yet. I mean, it's Wednesday night and we haven't heard what the lineup is going to be. We haven't heard, who's going to play quarterback, who's not. I would suspect that Aaron is not going to play. I would suspect that they might play Mason Rudolph, maybe a series in the first quarter, and then the rest of the game is going to go to Will Howard and Drew Aller. I would suspect that that's how it's going to go. That's just my opinion. That's what I think that they'll do. So we'll see tomorrow night who's the starting quarterback. On defense, now that's a whole nother story, y'all. The defense look good. They look good, man. They was making plays. The very first play of the practice on Saturday night, Jamal Dean, the new corner that they signed from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, he intercepted Aaron Rodgers for a pick six. The very first play of the practice. And now get me wrong, Asante Samuel, he's looked really good too. He's the one who did get burned on that 50-yard pass from Drew Aller to DK Metcalf, but he was a sticky coverage. I mean, he's 5'10", 5'11". DK Metcalf 6'4". You ain't catching the ball. You ain't catching on DK Metcalf. So but it was encouraging to see that he was, at least with him in coverage. But those guys look pretty good in Joey Porter's absence, those corners. And the other young guy, Dalen Everett, he was making plays too. That's the 3rd round pick that they got out of Georgia. The corner, 6 foot, 200 pounds, right in their mold, man. Physical dude, fast, 4.4 speed, can tackle, but he's also good in coverage, and he's big and strong, so he can play press man as well. He was doing some good stuff. He actually was coming in and starting when they went to nickel because they was playing Asante Samuel some in the nickel. So it was Everett and Dean on the outside and Samuel on the nickel. Also because Brandon Echols, who would replace Jalen Ramsey at nickel, he's hurt his ankle. He had a calf or a walking boot on his ankle. So they was using Samuel in nickel coverage just to give him a chance to get some work there, which he could do. He got the size to do it. He has the coverage ability to play nickel. He just hasn't done it because he's been so good on the outside. But here where you're like the 3rd or 4th corner, you're gonna have to be able to do multiple things. And so good thing we got him. But other thing I want to say is on the defense, two more things I want to highlight on the defense. The first thing is the defensive line. I love how they're employing the defensive line. So when they went to their base, now mind you, let me just say this too. While I was there and in other practice, I seen them run just about every single lineup that you can run. They did 3-4, they did 4-3, a nickel, dime, and a quarter. So let me just quickly tell you what that is. So 3-4, of course, y'all know was what we played for the last 30-some years since Bill Cowher came in 92. We've been playing 3-4, maybe even before that with Chuck Noll. But 3-4, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, 4 secondary. 4-3 is 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and 4 corners. Nickel, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. Dime, 4 down linemen, 1 linebacker, 6 DBs. And then quarter, 3 down linemen, 1 linebacker, 7 DBs. Okay. Now they did all of that. They did all of those different formations. In the 3-4, let me just give you some personnel so that you can have an idea of why I was so excited. In the 3-4, the starters were Derek Harmon at left end, Yaya Black, is that how you pronounce his name? Yeah. At nose tackle, which is where he should have been last year, instead of them playing him at defensive end. He should have been nose tackle because that's what he played in college. Anyway, he was at nose tackle, at starting nose tackle. And Cam Hayward. Linebackers, Watt, Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen, Alex Highsmith, Corners, Dean, Samuel. Safeties, Brisker, Deshaun Elliott. Then they went to a 4-3. I seen them play this 4-3. And this starting defense was Watt, Keanu Benton at defensive tackle, Cam Hayward at defensive tackle, Highsmith, at linebacker, Wilson, Queen, and Herbig came in at linebacker. And then the secondary, Dean, Samuel, Brisker, Elliott at safety. That was the 4-3. Nickel, almost the same. Watt, Keanu Benton, he's starting defensive tackle in sub-package ball. And Yaya Black starts nose tackle in the base 3-4. So when they went to the 4-3 or when they went to the nickel and nickel package, Keanu Benton was the starter. So it was, again, Watt, Benton, Hayward, Highsmith, linebackers Wilson, Queen, and then you had Jamal Dean at corner, Jamal Dean, and you had Dalen Everett, the rookie, at the outside corner, Samuel in the slot, and the safeties Brisker and Deshaun Elliott. Yeah, so let me just start right there because I want to talk about how they are using their personnel according to the strengths of the players. I heard Debo say this on his podcast when he was talking to Brian Angelico, who's the new offensive coordinator for the Steelers, and he asked him a specific question. He said, "How when you came up with your scheme and what you want to play here in Pittsburgh, do you have a set scheme that you want to play, and everybody just got to come in and learn it, or do you have a scheme that is tailored to take advantage of the skill sets of your offensive players?" And his answer was very telling, but it was very, good. And his answer is that both. He says both. He said, we definitely want from week to week to take advantage of the skill set of the players that we have, but we also want to make sure that we also are taking advantage of the weaknesses of the opposing team that we play. He said, but then we ain't going to just like throw away, the whole bathwater just to do that. We definitely want to stay in the scheme that we play because, that's what we've taught, but it's flexible enough to highlight the skill sets of those players. He said, that's why we acquire players. That's how we acquire players who can fit the scheme so that they're matched. So that, we don't have to do any adjusting to the scheme for the players because we got players who we know fit the scheme. Brilliant answer. And that made Debo happy because he was all excited, but we know why he's happy is because his knock on the previous regime is that they were so hell-bent and stubborn on what they wanted to do, even if it meant that the players that they have did not match their scheme. And that's where I'm getting at, because you're going to see differently this year, y'all, some things differently, because you're going to see, as I mentioned on the D-line, Yaya Black, who was a 5th-round draft pick and a nose tackle in Iowa, he played defensive end last year. He never played nose tackle. And you've seen him struggle at times, and then the other side of that is you had Keanu Benton, this is his 4th year here. He's been a nose tackle for all these years here, out of Wisconsin, when he never played nose tackle. He was more suited to play an end in the 3-4 or, the 5 technique or whatever. So he was playing nose tackle. Even Casey Hampton said he was playing out of position. And he was getting abused, which is why you've seen the run defense so bad, because you had guys playing positions that they were not suited to play. But thank you to the new coaching staff, especially on defense, who realized that Yaya Black is the man to play the middle of that defense. And Keanu Benton is going to be way more effective as a defensive lineman because he's playing his natural position. He had 5.5 sacks last year. There's no reason why now he's being used in a role, in a position that he should flourish, why he shouldn't have more than that this year. And so, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. And then you listen to the players talk. The players are excited about the defensive scheme because, like with Watt and Highsmith and Herbig, having all 3 of these pass rushers on the field at the same time and being able to use them in ways that's creative so you're not predictable, right? What is the biggest thing that comes out of our opponent's mouth over the last 10 years? We knew what they were doing. Cincinnati figured us out about 3 years ago in terms of how to minimize the effectiveness of TJ Watt. Cincinnati is the one who came up with the idea of we gonna chip him and hit him with 3 different people. First, you got to face our right tackle. Then you're gonna get chipped by our tight end, and then you're gonna get chipped again by the running back. So by the time you've gone through all that, the ball is gone. You're not getting to the quarterback, TJ Watt. We will not let you wreck this offense or wreck this game. Cincinnati came up with that, and for 3 years, you know what every other team did? The same thing. And for 3 years, you know what happened? His production went down. And on top of that, you know, what you seen in response was no creativity to get around that. Because you know what they did with TJ Watt? They kept lining him up outside the tight end. Why? If you already know that they're going to double and triple team him or chip him, why would you line him up way outside of the tight end? You got the right tackle and a tight end, and you lining him up way outside there. Ain't no way TJ Watt, he ain't that speed rusher. He's not that. He's a technician. He ain't getting to the quarterback from way out there unless there's a breakdown, unless there's, the coverage is immaculate. That hardly happens. So your counteract to him being double team and triple team is to make him rush from farther out. Really? But anyway, we see the creativity of this new scheme where he's being moved from side to side. He's been put in different places to put him on the offensive team's weakest lineman. That's the thing. Create matchups that you know you're gonna win, instead of just doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's insanity. You're just going to keep lining them up at the left outside linebacker spot and keep letting the right tackle and the tight end and the running back chipping and make him ineffective. No, man, put him when you got a left tackle who's a rookie or who's not good, or he's somebody who's playing for an injured player, then you put your best daggone pass rusher on this weak link and let him eat. So we're seeing that now with the defense coordinator. He seems to have a scheme that is going to take advantage of the skill set of these players, and the players are loving it. You hear Patrick Queen, who was down. He didn't do well last year. He knew it, and he didn't blame anybody. He took ownership of his own bad play, but he also talked about how he loves how this new regime and scheme is allowing them to be free to do what they do. It's putting them in position. It's putting them in position to, make plays and use their skill set, to make plays. And so, when you hear guys like him, and you heard Watt, you heard Highsmith, you heard those guys talk about, how excited they are to play in this scheme, man, and they look like it. That's what I'm gonna get to. And in these practices I went to, the defense is balling. I'm excited to see what they do tomorrow. I know we ain't gonna see the starters and stuff like that. We'll see, probably backups, but I'm excited to see, what they do tomorrow. But from what we see in training camp, the defense is looking to par, and so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the offense. The defense, and hopefully the offense can start to get together. But again, this is a new scheme for them. The offense they're in a new scheme. They got new players. It's going to take some time to gel. Pretty much the only players on the offense that have gelled or have been together is the offensive line. You had returning Metcalf, but you got a new running mate with Metcalf. Almost all new wide receivers with Bernard that they drafted, and Pittman coming over from the Colts. Dowdle now running back. There's some continuity with the line. With the tight ends with Washington and Fryer. But all these moving parts coming together and learning a new scheme. And not only are you learning a new scheme, but you're learning how to play offense. They're learning more than just a scheme, y'all, which is good. So we got to temper our expectations on this offense. It may not be explosive this year, or it may not be explosive at the outset of the year. Maybe it might get better as the year goes on, as they, continue to grow and develop. And it may take until next year, where you really see McCarthy's, footprint on this offense, because they've had a year to be in it and now another year to start it. So, So we just gonna rock with him. We're gonna ride with him. We're gonna see what happens. Hopefully Aaron can work his magic and do what he do, and get us to the playoffs. And once we get to the playoffs, anything can happen. So I'm excited about that. All right, so that was my, those are just some general takeaways from what I seen at camp. I do, though, I want to address a couple things. And, again, we keep it raw. We keep it real. We're going to tell the truth. And I know people are saying, yeah, the coach is gone. He's gone. Why are we still talking about him? Because this past week, you've heard a lot of talk about what's happening here now, the differences between now and before. And you've heard players come out and say some things indirectly that we've been saying the whole time. So let me address it, because that's just what I do. I don't care. I ain't scared of nobody. And I'm gonna keep it raw, keep it real. I love Mike Tomlin as a man, as a leader. I think he goes down as one of the greatest leaders that America has ever known. Not just football, but America. It ain't easy to lead young men and gain their respect. It's not easy to mimic parenting to young men, especially young men, and more especially in the African American culture, where most of those young men grew up in households where they were just being raised by their mother because their daddy wasn't around. And for him to do that for 19 years, and even before that, when he was with the Vikings and the Bucks, which is one of the reasons why they liked him, his relatability, his ability to relate to men and to develop men and to, mentor men and to help them grow, not just as football players, but as human beings, as men. That's to be complimented. He says some things and he's done things. His model for how he leads has brilliance attached to it. Things that I use myself in my field that I've heard him say. So I respect him a lot as a man, as a leader. I don't feel the same way about him as a football coach. Do I think he knows football? Absolutely. Do I think he's a brilliant mind in terms of football? Absolutely. But he lacks things. He has lacked things as a football coach that to me has led to mediocrity and a lack of success in playoffs. And one of the big things is kind of in, contrast to what we were just talking about, is this current coaching staff takes advantage of the skill set of the players that they have. That's something he didn't do. And you hear that when you hear players that we love and respect. There's no way, I know some of y'all are listening to this who love Mike Tomlin and you ride or die with him, but ain't no way you're going to tell me that somebody who is beloved as Minka Fitzpatrick will go on the pivot and talk about how what caused him to fall out of grace in Pittsburgh was the fact that they did not use him in a creative way to take advantage of his skill set, and then blamed him for not being as productive as he once was. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and think that nobody ain't going to figure it out. That's exactly what he was saying. You had me at, single high, or you had me as the deep safety, and, I was making plays for a minute, but then the quarterbacks and the coaches got smart. Why am I keep throwing it that way, knowing that he's back there and he can make plays? So they stopped throwing it his way. And instead of using him and maneuvering him in a way to take advantage of his skill set and put him in places, creatively, the way Dick LeBeau employed Troy Polamalu, they just left him there. Or every now and then he would slide down and play nickel. Or every now and then he would be the robber. People catch on to that. And they did. And then his production slacked. And then they said to him, well, we paying you $18 million a year and your production doesn't justify that. Well, how about you use me in a better way so I can be more productive instead of putting me out here in this predictable situation? That's what I don't understand. That's what I didn't get, But he ain't the only one who said that. Y'all have heard me say, and other players heard me repeat what other players have said. James Harrison said it. Ben Roethlisberger has said it. Other players, Joe Hayden, these guys have talked about how predictable this team was, how the schemes and the philosophies on how to play offense and defense just did not work. And it's the truth when, as I said, previously in years past, offenses always hollered, we know what they're doing. We know what they're doing. That's how we was able to beat them. We saw it on the show that they did for the AFC North on HBO. And right before the playoff game a couple years ago that the Ravens beat us in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson and the offense, like, we don't even have to meet because we already know what the Steelers defense is going to do. They're going to play cover 2, and they killed us. They literally killed us. They knew what we were going to do. Nothing different, no surprises, no changes. You get to the playoffs and you're going to do the same thing that you did for the last 17 weeks. And so I said that to say that, that's one of the reasons why this team had not gone anywhere. And 2, not developing talent, not developing players, not having a coaching staff that was able to develop talent and develop players was a knock. And it kept us from achieving greatness. And I don't know, now that I look at it, I think like this. Would I rather have a leader of men or a football coach? I'd rather have both. I'd rather have somebody who could do both. But if I had to choose between one, I want the football coach. God dang it, we playing football. And we playing football to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want, no big brother as the coach. I don't want a mentor as the coach. If I got to choose one or the other, teach them how to play football, teach them what it means to play football, and let's go out there and win a daggone championship. We'll worry about your personal stuff later if I had to choose. And so I'm hoping that Coach McCarthy is both. We know he's a football coach. He has been heralded as being somebody who pays attention to details, who teaches details, that he's thorough in his details. I love to hear that. And that's what these players love about him, that they all say the same thing. So it ain't just one who just likes him. All of them say the same thing. And I hope that he's able to, help them and mentor some of them who might need it, things of that nature. Or, he has a coaching staff who can handle some of those things and deal with some of those things as well. So I'm excited, y'all, about this football season. I'm excited about the Steelers as usual. I'm excited about going to games. I'm excited about our potential. And I'm not one to be biased, because if they stink, they stink. And that is the real reason why I do this show, because I'm going to keep it raw and I'm going to be real. I don't care who you are. Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy, Art Rooney, Dan Rooney, Omar Khan, I don't care who you are. If you ain't doing the job, I'm going to tell it like it T.I. is. I'm going to tell it like it is and call you on the carpet. So we're going to see tomorrow night. It's going to be fun to see the first preseason game. I'll be back next week, and I'm going to have some highlights. I'm going to show you some highlights. We're going to recap that game, talk about anything we need to talk about. Again, pay attention, y'all, to the quarterback situation. Will Howard, this is the first chance we get to see him. Y'all seen how they pumped him up. Everybody in the city been pumping him up like he the next coming of Ben Roethlisberger. I don't believe that, but we're going to see what he got to do tomorrow, because he's going to get a chance to play a lot tomorrow. So we're going to see what he got, and we're going to see what Drew Aller got. I'm telling y'all, my personal prediction and opinion is that if Drew Aller continues to develop his mechanics and his footwork, which I'm hearing that he's been doing great at it, that dude has the potential to be the next starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they got him in the 3rd round, but y'all have to remember he got hurt for Penn State early in the year last year, his senior year with Penn State. He got hurt. And if he had not got hurt, he was on his way to being a top 5 pick in the draft. That's how good he was. And not only was he good, but he was good with no talent. Last year, he was in the Heisman running. He was good, a great college quarterback last year with hardly no talent. And he was on his way this year if he hadn't got hurt. So, again, and not only did he play well, but he played well in a system that was not teaching him anything, that was not designed to take advantage of his skill set, that allowed him to play with bad habits as a quarterback in terms of his footwork, in terms of his ability to, to drop back and be under center, all kind of stuff that quarterbacks really need. And that was the knock on him. If somebody can get him and sharpen his mechanics, the brother has the potential to be a franchise caliber type quarterback. Well, what better guy to work with him than Mike McCarthy? And he's already put him, and to sit under Aaron Rodgers. He's already been put in their quarterback school. He's going through it, and they say he's looking good. When I seen him in practice, he looked sharp, except for in the 11 on 11s. He didn't look too sharp there when they had to play against actual defense, which is going to be the test. But he's a rookie. So if he can develop the neck game to go with the mechanics that he's working on, man, we may have our guy. We may not have to draft a first round pick next year. We may have our quarterback in Drew Aller, but we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. So I will see y'all next week as we recap the Steelers Packers game tomorrow, and as we get ready for the Steelers Jets, which is next week, next Friday. We're gonna get ready for that game and highlight that because that's another homecoming for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he might play in that game. We'll see. But other than that, y'all be blessed. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening, and we will root for the Steelers to get their first preseason win on tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see some good stuff from some of these young guys that gives us an idea on what we got going forward. All right, y'all. See y'all next week. God bless y'all. Peace.